Perfect. Thank you, Renee, and good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our virtual Rebel Recharge lecture. It's great to see a few familiar faces in the audience today, and I appreciate everyone joining us. My name is Blake Douglas. I'm the Associate Vice President for Alumni Engagement and Executive Director of the UNLV Alumni Association, and it's really, truly my honor to welcome each of you here today. Before we begin, I did want to give a special thanks and welcome to Renee Rivera-Gelfi, our Associate Director for Programs and Events. She's an integral part of this and helps produce these virtual lectures each month for us. So Renee, I appreciate your work to make all of this happen. We are working on creating a robust schedule of events for the fall semester. We think we have a lot of great things that our alumni are going to want to engage with us, and encourage you to take a look at engage.unlv.edu/events for our full list of events and programs coming up this fall. It's now my pleasure to introduce today's speaker as we celebrate Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. UNLV Alumna Minja Yan, president of the UNLV Asian American Pacific Islander Alumni Affinity Club and adjunct professor in the UNLV Lied Center for Real Estate, holds a master's degree in real estate with a concentration in finance and investment from New York University and a bachelor's degree in accounting from UNLV. Minja is the Director of Investment at Millennium Commercial Properties, where she is responsible for sourcing, underwriting, and working with the team to identify investment and development opportunities in Southern Nevada and other states. She conducts market analysis, financial modeling, and due diligence, and helps secure the project's debt and equity. She's also teaching real estate investment at the Lied Center for Real Estate at UNLV. She's an active member in the industry and serves on the board of Commercial Real Estate Women of Las Vegas chapter and the Urban Land Institute Nevada District Council Management Committee. It's a tongue twister. In addition, Minja is on the board of directors for the Nevada Asian American Pacific Islander Chamber of Commerce and UNLV Alumni Association's Lee Business School chapter. She was honored by the Business Insider as the top rising star in real estate in 2020 and by the Commercial Property Executive as Stars to Watch in 2022. We're excited to have Minja Yan joining us today to share her insights, and please join me in welcoming her. Minja?
Thank you. So unmute myself. Oh, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much, Blake and Renee, and thank you so much to the UNLV Alumni Association for hosting this event to celebrate the AAPI Heritage Month. And I'm going to share my screen and let's see. Can you guys see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. So in today's webinar, we're going to talk about the Spring Mountain Corridor, the development history of this area, and what does it mean to not only the Spring Mountain area, but also the greater Las Vegas community. And I'm going to, throughout my presentation, I will keep using the word creative placemaking, and I'm going to tell you what that means. So as Blake mentioned, I am part of a real estate development organization called the Urban Land Institute. And back in March, we hosted a celebration event to celebrate Women's History Month. And when I was choosing or finding the speakers for my event, I wanted to highlight a development project in Las Vegas that it focuses on placemaking. It's not about just building a real estate project, building boxes, but it's about how does this real estate development project influence the community to generate a social and economic impact in the greater area. So I invited Sharon Wong. She is the speaker, the panelist in the middle, as you can see here, and she participated in the development team that built the Chinatown Plaza, and her father and a few other partners were the developer and owner of Chinatown Plaza, and they were the originator of starting the Chinatown concept, which created a spillover effect in the Spring Mountain Corridor. And when I proposed this idea to a lot of people in my industry, I got a few pushback or questions from people in my industry asking me, why do you want to feature Chinatown? You know, it's not a mega resort. You know, why is it important to spotlight this project? It's because in the commercial real estate industry, if we look at the development history of Las Vegas, which is a picture, we oftentimes look at Las Vegas and only think about the Las Vegas Strip. It is our skyline of our city. And a lot of the residents and tourists, when they think about Las Vegas, they think about the hospitalities, the luxury hotels, the fancy apartment buildings or high-rise condos on the Strip. And we know, as somebody who grew up in Las Vegas, I know that Las Vegas is more than just the Las Vegas Strip. We have a community here in Southern Nevada. So when I teach in my class, I always tell my students that, the Strip, this is Las Vegas, but this is also Las Vegas. That's why it is so important for us to spotlight all of the development projects throughout Southern Nevada that contributed in the history of our city and our region. And today's webinar, we're going to talk about the Chinatown Plaza. So what is creative placemaking? Creative placemaking brings art, culture, along with great design into a real estate development project. And it shapes not only the physical, but also the social, cultural, and economic identity of a place. And this is exactly what the Spring Mountain Corridor, the Chinatown Plaza are about. If we, for those of us who live in Las Vegas, I bet, all of us have been to Chinatown Plaza or the Spring Mountain Corridor. We have been to one of those restaurants, or at least we have drove through the Spring Mountain World, and we visited, we got influenced, we saw the culture impact that this area created through, and its spillover effect in the greater Las Vegas community. And this is what creative placemaking is about. So I want to start off by, when you think about Chinatown, Spring Mountain, the first word that comes in your brain is food. It is a place that has over 300 AAPI-owned businesses, and a lot of those businesses are restaurants and bars and desserts. I love Asian desserts. So when we think about Chinatown, Spring Mountain, a lot of people will resonate and connect ourselves with food, all of the rich culture, all of the great restaurants in that area, and the intersection between art, culture, food. It created a very driven, vibrant community. And in addition to just the businesses and food there, the Chinatown Plaza and Spring Mountain Corridor always have different cultural events. And this is me. I'm right there. I participated in this year's Chinese New Year celebration at the Chinatown Plaza, and some of the other young professionals there, they were from high school, key clubs, and other nonprofits in town. And we all came together and celebrated Chinese New Year at the Chinatown Plaza. And on the right here, I like to see my face. On the right-hand side, you have the dragon dance, the lion dance and dragon dance. And those are two activities that we see all the time when we celebrate New Year's. It's part of our culture. It means good luck. And you put the red envelope into the mouth of the lion for lion dance performance. And every year, this festival attracts about 6,000 to 8,000 visitors a year. So when you think about Spring Mountain, it's not only just a place, it has brought all of these people in our community, a lot of them are nonprofits and community groups, to come together for a place to gathering, networking, and celebrating festivals and culture. It created a place for our community and for the diverse ethnic groups in our community to come together to share ideas and to network and connect with each other. So this place, when we think about Spring Mountain Corridor, it's not just commercial buildings or office buildings or restaurants or retails. It's placemaking. It's a place where people come work, live, play, learn and visit together. And also, we always support small businesses, the Chinatown area. Every year, so as I mentioned previously, there are over 300 AAPI-owned businesses in the Chinatown area, in Spring Mountain Corridor. And a lot of these businesses are not only Chinese businesses, but they also have, Korean restaurants, or Japanese ramen restaurants, Vietnamese, Filipino food, a lot of the different culture and ethnic groups that we see in the Chinatown corridor. And this area is open to everyone. And because of the success of the creative placemaking that this area has created, it drew other type of developments to the area in addition to just retail restaurants. So on the right-hand side, you can see a apartment complex that was constructed by a local developer in town, Jonathan Ford. I'm going to admit Kim to come join. So once you have a successful creative placemaking program, it will also create economic impact, economic benefits to the neighborhood and the greater Las Vegas community. So all of these great ideas. So let's talk about the initial idea forming, creative placemaking. So this great concept, this great development, it all started with the Chinatown Plaza by a developer named Henry Wong, and his daughter, Sharon Wong, was one of my panelists for the event I hosted back in March. And on the stage, she shared the story of her family and how her dad started the development and how she carried on the vision, the mission, and invited a lot of the local schools and community groups to participate in this driven community, and they do cultural tours at the property. So here, if you look at the red arrow, that is Henry. Henry, when he first moved to America, Las Vegas was not the first city that he lived in. He was originally in America living in Los Angeles. He immigrated, and Sharon also immigrated to America. So when they were living in LA, at the time, there were over 300,000 Chinese in population in the Los Angeles area. And even to today, we know that there are a lot of tourists that come from LA, come from Southern California. So back then, 30 years ago, in early 1990s, there were a lot of Chinese tourists who visited Las Vegas. Every weekend, they would go up to Las Vegas, drove on I-15 to go to the casinos and hotels. And then they came back to LA and they would complain about a very important thing to them that they couldn't find in Las Vegas at the time in 1990s. And I'm going to open the floor or open a chat for people to, answer if you have an idea of what was the big complaint that these Chinese tourists had back in 1990s, early 1990s, before Chinatown opened. Does anybody want to take a guess? Anybody in the chat? Oh, Jen, spot on. Couldn't find Chinese food. Yes. So Jen, you're right. So there was no authentic Chinese food in the area. So that was a big complaint for LA tourists who visited Las Vegas and they came back to LA and they say there was no authentic Chinese food. So developer Henry, he said, well, why don't I and a few other partners to build a Chinatown Plaza to get some anchor tenants in, and then to get more restaurants in Las Vegas. So he moved his family to Las Vegas and to build Chinatown Plaza. And when he was looking for a site to build this Chinatown Plaza, he chose the Spring Mountain World. And does anybody want to guess why Spring Mountain? Why this location? You can put it in the chat. I guess. No. Well, I can answer the question. It's because this site is near the strip corridor. It is not too far from the tourists who visit Las Vegas. And also it is a site that the locals can also access to. So that's why they chose this site. And they also looked at a few other sites on like the Durango World or a few other areas, but they felt like this site is the best site to develop it because it's closer to the Las Vegas Strip, to the hotel corridor. And they broke ground in 1992. So this is a picture of them during the construction, and they implemented a lot of the design and architecture details in this project. So they hired an Asian architect. His name is Simon Lee, and he was based in Los Angeles. I don't think Sharon mentioned where he's based now, but he hired an Asian architect. And then for the construction workers, they hired Korean American construction workers who lived in LA at the time, because when they designed the roof, this is a very special type of architecture, and the architect used the Tang Dynasty era for the to use it as a template to design the Chinatown, because the developer really wanted a project, a building that really symbolic the Chinese culture, and that's why he implemented a lot of the design details that you can, when you look at it, you can tell that this is a Chinatown Plaza. So the reason why they hired Korean American contractors who were based in LA is because for this type of design and construction in Las Vegas at the time in early 1990s, the local contractors a lot of the local contractors were not AAPI, so they couldn't understand how to implement the construction on a blueprint that they have a type of design that they have not seen before. And back in LA in early 1990s, there were other AAPI contractors based in Los Angeles, like Korean and Japanese, and other countries that have seen similar designs before. So the contractors over there, they had a better understanding of how to implement the construction details of a blueprint like this. So they hired the Korean American contractors, or I'm sure they hired a few Chinese American contractors based in LA too, to come to Las Vegas to implement this project. And some of the materials like the roofs, the tiles that you see, they were imported from Taiwan. So the blueprint, the developer and the architect, they sent this blueprint to a factory based in Taiwan. And then the Taiwan factory created, customized the construction materials for the roof, and they imported back to the US to put it on this project. So there were a lot of design details in this project that the developer and architect implemented in it. So the plaza opened in 1995, and this is a structure at the Chinatown Plaza. And I'm sure for those of us who live in Las Vegas, we've seen it, we have passed through it. And this is a story. It's A Journey to the West is the name of this story. And this story is a traditional Chinese story and Chinese history that a lot of the Chinese Americans know. So this is a very symbolic structure to show you the culture, the heritage of the developer, and why he wanted to put it there to reflect the rich cultureness of this development project. And in addition to just this structure, if you look at the roof of this building, they designed a few animals and dragons and lions or tigers, different animals on top of the roof. And again, that is an architecture detail that the architect implemented it based on the Tang Dynasty design template. So public-private partnership. So it was the first project and it created a spillover effect. So if you look at the surrounding, there was one surrounding property right next to the Chinatown Plaza. It's owned by the Harsh Properties, and they're an American-based company. And their property used to be a warehouse industrial property right next to Chinatown Plaza on Spring Mountain. And for the front row of that industrial warehouses, they converted into retail, and they implemented the same kind of roof that you see on this picture on their property. So they're an American-based developer, but they saw how successful the Chinatown Plaza is. So they converted the front row of their warehouse properties into retail and restaurants, and they implemented the same kind of roof over there. And that the other developer spoke to this developer, and they both agree to work together and to implement a similar kind of roof design to create, to make this area a more unified look from the external perspective. So if you go to Spring Mountain, right next to Chinatown Plaza, if you see all of those smaller retail and restaurant stores on the first floor, and if you ever wonder why is there always a lack of parking spaces at the other plaza, it's because the other plaza originally was an industrial warehouse. It was not zoned for restaurants and retail. So it is always so hard to find parking spaces at the other plaza. But this spillover effect continues, and it created other developments, and it attracted not just Chinese restaurants, but other, American restaurants, European restaurants, or other AAPI restaurants and stores and business owners to this area because of the creative placemaking that has been successfully implemented by the first plaza, the second plaza, and then the third and fourth, and then eventually it created the Spring Mountain corridor. And now let's go back to public-private partnership. So back in 1996, after the Chinatown Plaza opened, Clark County designated this plaza the Asian Pacific American Culture Center on May 7, 1996. And why is it public-private partnership important? It's because this is the first project that really established on the Spring Mountain Road. It has been very successful in creative placemaking, and in any successful placemaking project, you want to work with the public sector, with the local government, the community leaders and partners, and to establish policies or recognitions that foster an equitable environment of mutual gain for all, not just for one plaza, but for the entire district. So here again, it goes back to creative placemaking again. You have the developers, the partners of all of these buildings on Spring Mountain. You have the community groups. I participated in the an AAPI Heritage Month festival yesterday, and we had Native Hawaiian, we had Filipino, we had a lot of different AAPI community groups in that one festival. And these festivals happen all the time in the Spring Mountain corridor, maybe in different buildings or different community centers, but it's this creative placemaking that has created a friendly and welcoming environment for local residents and tourists to find a place that they belong, and they can come together and celebrate their culture and share their culture to others. There are a lot of good food. Everybody comes in to celebrate and eat good food. And so what does the public sector get out of it? The public sector can get out of it by having by increasing their tax revenues from sales tax. If small businesses succeed, they always they want to expand and hire new employees and create jobs. Public safety, you want to have a driven community neighborhood than a neighborhood that is not driven. And there's definitely challenges that we still need to improve in terms of public safety or affordable housing or in the Spring Mountain corridor and the greater Las Vegas area. But I think I think positively, and I think we're hopefully heading to the right direction. So in 1999, then Governor Kenny Guinn officially designated this section of Spring Mountain as Chinatown, promoting exit signs off of I-15 and the expansion of Asian culture businesses to Rainbow Boulevard, where the Korean Town Plaza now occupies the Greenland supermarket. And this is back in 1999. So 20 years later, in 20 something years later in 2023, I think this Spring Mountain corridor really expanded and attracted a lot more different cultures and different ethnic groups to this area. So that's why I titled this presentation, the Spring Mountain Corridor, not just Chinatown. And looking forward, so this area is a successful example of how creative placemaking in one project can influence the greater Las Vegas Valley. It inspired a lot of the small business owners to start their business. It inspired a lot of the school and students to learn about the different cultures, to learn about their heritage. And I have heard of second generation immigrants who live in Las Vegas and say, oh, I wish I knew a bit more about my parents' culture, my culture, and I wish I could speak that language. So this one successful development project created a spillover effect and influenced the greater Las Vegas community. And it really inspired the AAPI community to start our own business, to be our own entrepreneurs, to participate in those community events, to participate in the Chinese New Year festival. And you started to see a lot more AAPI businesses popping up outside of the Chinatown Spring Mountain corridor. There are AAPI businesses in Henderson, North Las Vegas, Southwest, all over Summerlin, all over Southern Nevada. But this one great example is it really symbolic, the Spring Mountain corridor, and how when you bring people together and create a placemaking project, it has a greater effect in the overall region, not just that neighborhood that you're in. And I would like to give a shout out to the UNLV University Libraries or History Project. So I got a lot of these information from the UNLV Library, the event I hosted back in March. Clay T. White, the director of the Oral History Center at UNLV Library, and Stephanie Evans, both of them, they helped me a lot with the research and invited the speakers for me and provided all of the photos and research materials for the event I had back in March, and I got these materials for this webinar as well. So if you haven't checked out UNLV Libraries or History Research Center, I will highly recommend you to check out their research project. They have great interviews and a digital collection of the development history of Las Vegas. So this is my conclusion slide, and I'm going to answer some of the questions. And for those of you who would like to ask a question, feel free to unmute your mic, and I would like to make this an interactive session. I am the president of the UNLV AAPI Alumni Affinity Club, and you can follow us on social media, and you can also follow UNLV Alumni Association on all social media platforms to stay tuned for our future events. We have a few events coming up. So this year we had one event already. Yesterday we participated in the North Las Vegas AAPI Heritage Month celebration. 2 days ago, we were at Student Union with the Asian Community Development Center and UNLV Student Affairs Diversity Program. They hosted a graduation event at the Student Union. So we had a booth, a table at that event. And then in September, we're going to host another event where we'll invite a lot of the student clubs and community groups together to come to UNLV, and we'll invite the students to come to explore all of the resources that are available to them on and off campus. So if you're interested to learn more, feel free to contact us and follow us on social media. So now I'm going to stop share and take some questions. Oops, how did I do that? Okay. Yes. If anybody has any questions? I see Professor Lee has some question. Professor Lee, would you like to speak up? Unmute your mic.
Thank you all. Hi. Thank you so much. I really enjoy, and thank you, Minja. She's a really representation of European communities. And then this is a very good topic. I'm actually a restaurant and real estate teacher and hospitality college. So really enjoy her presentation. Also, she really bring us to what's the next for all the Asia Pacific community representation of greater Las Vegas community. So this is a very good symbol and to get started. And I didn't know UNLV Library has big such great collections. So I really enjoy. And then I will also share this presentation slide. If Minja can share, I can share to my student in food business. And then this is very, very good. And then she's really good. And then I saw her all the events. And then she's our teacher in real estate, Lied Business School, and then really enjoy her sharing. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Lee, for joining us today. Is it Evelyn? Evelyn?
My email?
Oh no, it's another person asked the question. Would you like to unmute your mic, or do you want me just to read off your question about the restaurant? Hi. Oh, I think you are muted. Oh, hello? Oh, okay. Well, maybe I can just read off the question from the chat. What is your favorite restaurant on Spring Mountain? Oh, her audio doesn't work. It's okay. What's your favorite restaurant on Spring Mountain? There are a lot. I love all-you-can-eat Korean barbecue. Those are my favorite kind of restaurants on Spring Mountain. There are a lot. And one thing I forgot to mention when the developer was designing this center is that he wanted to have an anchor tenant in order to attract all of the small businesses to come. It's similar concept in my industry. When we build a retail plaza, we always want to have an anchor tenant like Walmart or Home Depot or Target. A lot of these big national chain that people can recognize the name. And for smaller businesses who are not nationally recognized, but they want to be in the area, when they see a big name, big anchor tenant there, they'll be like, oh, I want to be next to Walmart. I want to be next to Target, because they know that these big tenants can attract the foot traffic to this plaza. So for the Chinatown Plaza, when the developer was finding an anchor tenant, he reached out to the 99 Ranch Market, which was a very popular, well, it's still a very popular national chain supermarket in America. And if you go to Southern California or Northern California, everybody knows the 99 Ranch Market. So the 99 Ranch Supermarket was the first anchor tenant, and they also had the Sambo barbecue, which was very popular in LA at the time. That's why the developer reached out to them. So having these anchor tenants to come to Las Vegas, to expand to Las Vegas, it attracted the smaller businesses, the smaller restaurants surrounding it. And that's how you created this driven retail plaza, and the spillover effect to the neighbor, to the other property that owned by a local, not local one, but a regional American-based American developer who changed their design, their exterior look to look like Chinatown. And they had hot and juicy crawfish. I love hot and juicy crawfish there. Yes, and I'm sure Professor Lee can add on to that, because he's an expert in the restaurant business as well. Okay. Thank you, Evelyn.
Anna, do you have a question?
I
Feel free
do.
to go. Yes, feel free.
Hi, Anna.
Hi, Minja. Great presentation, as usual, very informative. So I'm just curious with the progressive development that Chinatown has had over the years. I'm now noticing there's more and more non-Asian cuisine.
Mhm.
Is that something, so it's kind of like a double-folded question. So one, do you see the brand of the Chinese community or the Asian community being diluted by this? Because at the end of the day, it's a business. And these are tenants that are coming in that are taking up big spaces, like such as Partage is one of them, very highly rated, but it's French. So I'm seeing other restaurants like that in this corridor. Is that something that A, you're gonna see the brand being diluted, and B, how do you think that affects the Spring Mountain corridor as a whole?
Well, for my personal opinion, I think it's, if I just think about it from a visitor perspective, I would love to see a lot, diverse groups and food out there as a visitor, have more options to eat. And from an AAPI community perspective, I've heard some comments from non-AAPI and saying that, oh, the Spring Mountain corridor is only for AAPI, and it's not only for AAPI. It's open to everyone, welcome everyone. There's no gates or blocks that, stopped you from entering into the area. It's an open space, and that's what placemaking about. And I believe that the AAPI community wants to make it a welcome environment and friendly environment that will want everyone to come and experience our culture, and we get to learn from other culture too. And maybe for that French restaurant that comes in, maybe a few years later, you will see, I don't know, like a Korean, French cuisine fusion, you never know. And that's what makes these projects fun, when you have all of different cultures to come together. It's just my personal opinion. Yeah. And I think the Spring Mountain corridor, it has been almost 30 years, 25 years. Even before the Chinatown Plaza, there were some small businesses out there. The Chinese population was small in early 1990s, but it's the AAPI population. It's about 11% of the total population in Nevada, and we are continuing to grow. So I think the deep root of the Spring Mountain corridor and the enriched culture that all of these different ethnic groups that we have in the AAPI community has created a strong foundation in our community. And I don't see it being diluted just by having, a few tenants or restaurants coming in from other culture. I think it's a good thing. That's how you create those fusion restaurants where you have different cultures, bounce back the ideas together.
Thank you, Minja. Thank you.
Yeah. And if it's a highly rated restaurant, as a developer, I would like to see more foot traffic, and the foot traffic will spill over to the other tenants in the plaza. 99 Ranch has brought a lot of the foot traffic to the surrounding neighborhood. Oh, Professor Lee, would you like to answer that question? You type something in the chat.
Sure. Thank Anna, that's a very good question. So we actually study all the Asian plaza from LA, California, Seattle, Boston, and all the New York City. So this is actually the third phase of Asian plaza involvement. If Chinese or Korean, they have the next, maybe Chinese, they have Korean tenants, they have a Vietnamese tenants. So actually they become more vibrant. Once you have a non-AAPI tenants, that should mean the success, because it become the placemaking, like Minja just mentioned, creative space. We define this as AAPI and the whole world. Let the access from AAPI to the whole world. So we see a lot of very successful Asian plaza. Right now, not only have Asian tenants, actually have a lot of German brand, a lot of French brand in between. So this means this is a very good success, Spring Mountain corridor in our community. That's it. We should celebrate this. I don't think it's a dilution. This is really success. How AAPI community brought them to outreach to better, bigger population base. Yeah, thank you so much for the question. Thank you for Minja, allow me to
Thank
share.
you. Thank you. And maybe give one context about Professor Lee's background. He specialized in restaurants and franchisees, real estate. So when it comes to restaurants and retail, I know he has a lot of good information to share with us. Yeah.
I was in Chinatown Plaza yesterday, the same plaza Minja just mentioned, because my friend from Texas, he said, hey, let's go check out Chinatown Plaza. So having finished admission or the final exam yesterday, I served myself in Chinatown Plaza too. Thank you so much.
Yep, and we got one more question. With the Southwest Valley growing with more Asian-centric restaurants and stores, do you think the Spring Mountain corridor will be able to keep up? That's a great question. And then with so many chains moving into the area, do you know if there is any commerce support for local businesses instead of franchisees? So I have seen the news about a second Chinatown Plaza in Southwest in the Las Vegas community. And I know a local developer who wants to involved in a development like that. I don't think the Spring Mountain corridor will be diluted or being taken away businesses from having another, maybe a second, let's call it a second Chinatown Plaza or a second Spring Mountain in Southwest. Because Southwest, they have a new development that recently opened. It's the Uncommon, a $400 million mixed use development project. And they have all kinds of cuisines, not just Asian-centric cuisines there. And then there are a lot of Asian-centric restaurants in Southwest, but I think there are some Asian-centric restaurants all over the valley. I feel like the AAPI business owners, all these AAPI restaurants are propping up. They're all over the valley. But Spring Mountain corridor is unique because of the creative placemaking. It's not just about one plaza. It's about the neighborhood, the community, and all of the culture, the arts, the community events and the festivals that they host there. That's what makes it unique. And I don't see another area up and coming that has the space or the community connections to host these culture enriched events and activities. Would there be support of local businesses? I always support local businesses. One of my favorite book about urban planning, it's Jane Jacobs, The Death and Life of Great American Cities. And in her book, she talked about how one neighborhood cannot only have new buildings. It needs to be you cannot just come in and tear down all of the old buildings and build something brand new. It has to be a mix of old and new, because a lot of the local businesses cannot afford the high rent in new buildings. In fancy buildings or new constructions, they always charge a higher rent. And small businesses tend to have their space in older buildings. So it's important to have new and old. So you have the bigger tenants who can afford to pay rent at the newer building, but you also have the mom and pop businesses who have great food, they have great customer service, but they don't have the financial support like the national chains do, and they will be in older buildings. So what makes Spring Mountain unique is that if you look at Spring Mountain, they have old and new buildings. They have new constructions, but they also have the relatively older buildings that you see a lot of small businesses there. So small business is a big important part in placemaking. You cannot only have national chains. The national chains might draw the names, the big crowds, but small businesses is what makes the community driven. It's like you go into Arts District, there are so many small businesses there. It's not like a big shopping mall that you walk in is all cold and empty with national chains, and there's no authenticity in it. Authenticity, that's what makes Spring Mountain corridor special. But thank you so much for the question. Good question. Yeah. Is there any other questions? You raise your hand. No, I think we're pretty good on time. Renee or Blake, is there anything else that you would like to add?
I just want to add that, I moved to Vegas about a little over 5 years ago, and I have never experienced so much different food as I have in Spring Mountain. It's one of our favorite places to visit on the weekends and try new things. So thank you for sharing your insight with us, because I agree. I think it adds a lot of diversity and just culture to the Las Vegas community. So Spring Mountain is definitely one of my favorite places that I visit. And thank you so much, Minja, for sharing your insight with us.
Thank you. And I would like to add one more quick comment. I'm scrolling back to the questions. I think Evelyn, she typed no representation ? When I shared the slide of the groundbreaking. And Evelyn, I completely agree with you. And that's what I'm advocating for in the commercial real estate development industry. I'm one of the co-founders of the Women Building Nevada Symposium at the American Institute of Architects. So last year, it was our first annual symposium that spotlights and celebrates women, designers, architects, construction engineers, developers, to come to spotlight their accomplishments and to connect with them and to elevate the accomplishment that contributed in building Nevada. So in terms of the commercial real estate industry, I'm advocating, I'm trying, and that's why I came back to UNLV to teach my students. UNLV has probably the most diverse student body in the country. And if I want to see more diversity in my industry 20, 30 years from now, I know that I have to start with students. That's why I came back to UNLV to teach the real estate class at the real estate program. And I'm constantly introducing my students to the good people in our industry who I know that they will be mentored by them, and to break the glass ceiling and the bamboo ceiling to get to the decision-making seats one day. Yeah. But thank you so much for pointing that out. Yeah, Blake, is there anything you'd like to add?
Sure. I just want to add my thanks to Minja and to all of you for joining us today and taking a time out of your Friday to learn a little bit more about the Spring Mountain Corridor. I've lived here for going on 26 years and have certainly experienced quite a few cultural events and festivals in that area, as well as some incredible meals with friends. And thank you. I also appreciate the little bit of insight on the parking situation over there, because always a mystery. So that was nice. But Minja, it's awesome when we can highlight the great work and impactful work that our alumni are doing in our communities and around the world. So we appreciate you spending some of your time and sharing your knowledge and insights with us this afternoon. And yeah, just thank you. So
thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I hope you have a great weekend, and please keep an eye out on our events, upcoming events for the fall. And again, thank you, Minja, so much.
Thank you. Go Rebels.
Go Rebels.
Thank you.